I want to move on to another issue because there's talk under the currency restrictions on the use of cash bill. It's before the Parliament, Adam. It's been passed by the House of Reps. It's awaiting Senate voting. I think Parliament's back on about the 23rd of March for 1 week before then the May budget. This is the bill to ban cash transactions over $10,000. There's some concern in the submissions, and most submissions, and nearly 3,000 submissions have gone into the committee, oppose the government's move here. It looks like it's got Labor support. But there is some risk or concern that if we hit negative interest rate territories, depositors will have to be paying the banks to hold on to their money. Is that right?
Well, look, I think it's unlikely that we will reach negative rates, but yes, it is technically right. That will be the case, but of course they always have the option of taking the money out in cash, kind of and storing it that way. I don't think the bill bans storing wealth as cash. Maybe it bans spending it that way. But look, I know some people feel very, very passionately about this and they're very against it. But on balance, I think I support the proposal. It's aimed basically at avoiding tax evasion. I don't think that it's being pushed at the behest of banks, who actually, if you look at the data, don't actually benefit from very low interest rates anyway. So I think that's a marginal issue. But as a society, we're using cash less and less anyway. So I think this is kind of a marginal issue.
Terry?
Well, I think there is a bit of a slippery slope here, Peter, that you ban cash transactions over $10,000. As your guest was arguing last night, you can ultimately make it illegal. You can ultimately deprive people of their access to cash. And I'd be concerned about that dynamic. But I agree with Adam that at the end of the day, we are becoming a cash-free society functionally. I'm a bit in two minds about the tax argument as well, because yes, it will help tackle tax evasion and the black economy, but at the same time, I mean, this is a fundamental right that people should have, the ability to have cash and to use cash if they wish to.
Well, let's look at the United States, because Wall Street saw an earlier in the week lift, a much-needed lift after President Trump announced a fiscal boost in response to coronavirus. Now, there is some debate whether the worsening economy, if it heads that way, will be very tough for the president going into the election race in November, or whether he can weather the storm based on the last 4 years' performance. Adam, first, what do you make of the US stimulus talk?
Well, I think the talk is of a reduction in taxes rather than more spending. But I think the overall point here is just the US fiscal situation is in a very bad way. I mean, they are already stimulating effectively by $1 trillion a year. That is the US federal budget deficit. So I do find it almost amusing on one level that President says, well, we're just going to stimulate more. I mean, it kind of makes a mockery really of balanced books in any way. But it certainly markets investors are very dependent on what the details of this package are. I think it's going to have to be large. The president said that it's going to be large. So that expectation is now built in. But of course, it just brings us closer to the point where lenders to the US government say, hang on, are we ever going to get our money back? Because we've lent so much. I mean, debt to GDP in the US for the government is about 80%, whereas here it's about, depending how you measure it, about 20. So the fiscal situation there is very bad.
Terry, it's it is tough for President Trump at the time when the economy, at least in terms of the voter base that had been supporting him in the past, was headed in the right direction come November. He's now got, I think, a real competitor in Biden, who is probably more palatable to the middle. Tell me about the stimulus, but also how you think the politics is playing out.
Well, I find it very disturbing, Peter, to have policy in America hostage to Wall Street's whim, so to speak, and the need. I mean, we saw the first leg was the Fed cutting interest rates by 50 basis points because Wall Street went down, not because there was a fundamental problem in the economy that the economy was slowing, but simply because those Wall Street people, whatever you want to call them, we're losing money, and we're worried about the market going down from an extraordinarily high level. And I'm worried that in the main that President Trump is proposing to do exactly the same thing with the stimulus package, which is all about keeping Wall Street happy, not actually addressing any fundamental problem in the economy.